Hello, I'm Daniel Estrada and I work with Extralink, Cronus-Cyber's distributor for the Americas. Cronus is a global provider of automated penetration testing solutions that features next-generation vulnerability management. The award-winning application called CyBot provides a live map of validated attack path scenarios on a global scale so you can efficiently focus on the vulnerabilities that threaten your core business processes. Their patented technology imitates human ethical hacker operating practices to discover, predict, analyze, and mitigate the risk of sophisticated cyber attacks, all in real time. I will now be giving you a demo of Cronus' CyBot Pro. This dashboard maps a fictitious client's network's vulnerability assessment. On this dashboard we have attack path scenarios, business risks, data summary, network risk trends, network status map, critical asset status, and critical events. So here on the right in data summary we have all the technical information like the number of IPs discovered, the last scan, and a little bit lower the number of servers and workstations. This middle section is business risks. One neat thing is that the customer can create these threat titles in their own language, Spanish, Portuguese, French, so it could say robo de credenciales instead of credential theft. When you hover over any of these, you can see what percentage each threat is. Like in this case, 39% of total threats is business information leakage. Let's go into this intuitive mapping tool. We start by the graphical representation of the customer's network discovery, and we see all these IPs in the network represented by these circles. In the legend, you can see which assets are critical, high, medium, etc. After discovery, since Cronus is white box with credentials, we connect to each IP and we can build a profile for each of them based on the significance level. So the big question is, how do we map the significance level for each asset? Cronus goes by NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards. For instance, the domain controller is deemed a critical asset, the same as the database server, and so on. The gray lines are connectivity lines, but we also have blue and red lines. Blue lines are attack path scenarios that start from the customer's website, whereas red lines are attack path scenarios started inside the customer's infrastructure. Imagine a huge graph with hundreds of lines and circles. Let's look at this graph in more detail. So click here on Options, click here on Detailed Map. If we had hundreds of IPs, we'd use the filtering capabilities and switch on the hide non-attack path scenario hosts. You can see that everything not exploitable is gone, and we're left with only colored lines and assets. This allows our customer to focus on business critical processes first, as I am only seeing exploitable vulnerabilities in the network at this point. As I hover over any of these assets, I see technical information. If I actually click on any of these, it opens a new tab where I can drill down and see the host's open ports, services, technical information, business risks, and this is key, the vulnerabilities of this host. Here we find ourselves in the nitty-gritty of this whole exercise, the vulnerability report. Now, if we showed all possible vulnerabilities, then Cronus wouldn't be any different from its competitors. You see here that the exploitable header filter is set to true, so it's ignoring everything that isn't exploitable. On this server, we see 433 items that are exploitable. If I clear this filter, it goes up to 846 vulnerabilities, and this will make the IT folks go mad. Cronus uses a color scheme to help IT order their efforts, so start with critical red and then move on to important orange and finally medium blue. Having said that, let Cronus do the validation and inform you which vulnerabilities are exploitable, even if medium. So don't go by the color scheme only. I put the column back into the true value and you can see where you have to start patching up. This is done by clicking on these vulnerabilities, seeing the description, and links for remediation where you can choose any one. Cronus shows you which vulnerabilities you need to fix now, where to get the fixes, and how to fix them. The report drop-down menu has reports for hosts by risk, vulnerabilities by risk, and attack path scenarios. Let's click on this last one. Attack path scenarios will show you all the attack paths in the customer's organization. In this list, we see the name of the attack, its type, the exposure rate, and all the technical information, including the start point of the attack, as well as the end point of the attack. Now let me add another column to this report. I want to know how many steps of lateral moves a hacker has to make to get to my critical assets. Let me also order this by quantity and then click again to reverse order. And I see that 3 of these attacks have 5 steps to get to the cookie jar. I can also click on the filter and choose only 5. This way I only see the rows that have 5 steps. So what I'm seeing here are 3 attack path scenarios for my domain controller's exploitable vulnerabilities, and that would take a hacker 5 steps from entry point to the domain controller. And check this out. When I click on the name of any attack, I can visualize a master hacker infiltrating the network by jumping through 5 assets. Now when I hover over these IPs, which are servers and network devices, I can see their names and technical information. We see how the hacker can use the vulnerabilities exposed here in each step and jump from one vulnerable asset to the next until completing the heist. Most cybersecurity companies will tell you to remediate the critical assets first. So they would start with the domain controller to make it safe. But what happens to the rest of the attack path scenario? It won't disappear, so the attacker will use the next to last asset to jump to a different host. Cronus recommends that fixing and closing the door of the starting point of the attack would be the most effective solution. So remediating this first server and fixing these vulnerabilities would stop the whole attack from happening. Now let's clear the steps filter and drag the start host IP to the filter section and sort the report by target host IP. Now this report is grouped by the initial infiltration point, so I go to Save Settings, I can assign a name and a description and save this report. Afterwards, I can automate the report setting process by going to Menu, Custom Report Settings, and click on Add Report. Select a report name and settings, set a start date, start time, a frequency of once every week, select the format and the recipients, and then I would save it. So for this customer, I can schedule a weekly penetration test, a weekly vulnerability management, and now a weekly report. This would go to the IT department for them to remediate, and we tell them what, how, and where to fix everything that is business critical. Now to finish making a strong cybersecurity solution, we have to tailor Cronus to the customer. The first of these is asset management. Here we can define assets as the customer sees them. Let's add an asset, and we start with a role and choose workstation that we know belongs to the CEO's executive assistant. She has all the business information on her laptop, so we click and choose business information leakage. You can also enter your own threat as a free-form text such as party pics in any language. Then we would find out and input the IP address, and check this out, because it's a workstation, the threat significance is low. But because of the nature of it being the staff of the CEO, we can set this as critical, and then we would save it. This allows CyBot to mark it as a target and calculate any attack path scenario targeting this workstation. So this is one way to tailor the CyBot to the customer. The second and most important one is the business scenario rules. Cronus is a cybersecurity tool that knows how to correlate business processes with threat management. In this window, you can create a business process. Let's make a very simple one by grabbing a workstation for me as a salesperson traveling around the world, and after meetings, I connect to my organization by VPN, which is behind a firewall. I then upload a document to my CRM server, which has a database server behind it. This is a typical and basic process any organization uses on a daily basis. I assign a name and choose the rule significance, and once created, CyBot will start monitoring this process going forward. Let's get back to the main dashboard and check out the critical events section. So once a week, CyBot will be running 4 business critical scenarios, and the red blinking dot means that they are under threat. When we click on business scenarios, we arrive at the threat report. Clicking on any of these risks will show how the attacker could infiltrate your network, jump to another asset, and then arrive at the domain controller. So one of the most important functions of this tool is that when you supply this report to your customer cybersecurity team, you dramatically lower their risks by showing them which business critical processes are exploitable. Thank you so much for watching. I am Daniel Estrada from Extralink, and I can be reached at danestra@extralink.com.